Let's see. I think we might be live. Let's see here. Okay, I think we are. All right. Welcome, everyone, to episode 868 of the Black Brain Trust. This is Black Cannabis Talk, the real smoke show for your Sunday evening. We're going to talk about how to grow cannabis, one of my favorite subjects. We're about to get into the growing season here, coming on up. So yeah, let's talk about it, man. Let's talk about how to grow cannabis. You know what I mean? I also have a strain review. Okay, we're gonna review the Wedding Crashers strain. Now, as typical, I always do this shit. I get into it, but first and foremost, let me do this. Let's do this. Everyone. Gratuities are in order. Okay, first and foremost. Second, I need you guys to do this. The sound and music is okay. All right. I didn't put a space in between 420 and if that happens. But if you guys could, if you'd be so kind, let me know if just the sound and everything is okay. Zone, y- you're one to talk. Um, let's see here. Yeah, if you guys could press a 420, and then that would let me know everything sounds good. All right, real quick. Um, Zone, you said I'm good. Okay, cool. All right, cool. I got a confirmation. All right. So now, first and foremost, here before we get into this, disclaimer. Listen, hey, use this information if it's legal in the state where you live. Okay. Disclaimer, you guys. Disclaimer. Uh, I am in the state of California. It's legal here. Been growing it for some years, so I'm just going to talk about, uh, you know, how to grow it. I'm going to have an article I'm going to pull from Leafly. It's just kind of like a rudimentary sort of soup to nuts, and then I'll just kind of fill in the gaps. My experiences doing the various methods, um, and then we will get into the uh, strain review. You said turn it down just a bit. Let me see. Right there. Okay. I think right there's perfect. All right. Okay. So let me get my screen shares together. Oh, and before we do that, um, I'm also going to talk about the strains that I have planned to grow for this year from seed. We'll pull some up. We'll pull up some information. We're just gonna kind of be some weed nerds tonight. A real smoke show. Okay. All right. So let me do this. Let me do this right here. All right. This is from Leafly, and I'm gonna go ahead and just post the link here in the chat. Okay, there we go. And we're going to just go ahead and read along here. All right. Growing weed is super easy. It's called weed for a reason. So don't worry if you haven't grown anything before. Our clear, easy to digest guide will help growers of all kinds, especially first time ones. You should say first time growers. Uh, Whether indoors or outdoors, growing marijuana is fun and rewarding, but it can also be challenging. It takes a certain amount of patience, time, and money. We'll talk you through all the steps of growing from preparation to seed germination, plant growth, and harvesting, as well as best practices and how to troubleshoot common problems. Now, just so you guys know, and pardon me here, I am sipping on a little bit of ginger and turmeric tea. Mm. Um, you know, I'll be growing outdoors in pots as I typically do. I just stick them out and I let nature do its do. So, I'll kind of give you guys more or less my experiences doing that. Zone has given me some tips and pointers over the last couple of years. But I've also done some hydro, and we'll talk about that as well. Because the plant was illegal for so long, a lot of grow info has been passed down by word of mouth. There are many myths and traditions about growing weeds, so it can be hard to sort good, sound advice from hearsay. Also, because it was illegal, there's ample information on indoor growing and how to get the most out of a small space by maximizing harvest and training plants. These are all great resources, but not all growers want to put in that amount of time and effort to get a ton of weed. Some growers just want to have fun, grow a little weed, and smoke something they grew themselves. That's the type of dude I am. I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. That's me right there. Below are the topics covered in our grow guide. That is followed by a list of where it is legal to home grow. So here, let me do this. I'm glad they provided this link. Let me post it right now. Once again, yeah, let me do this right here. If it is not legal where you live, do not do this. Okay? Don't do it. Okay, that is followed by a list of where it's grown illegal or homegrown in the US and a quick overview of the growing process. Okay, that's it. We did that right there. I posted that link. All right. Let's see here. Okay, here we go. Quick overview of the basics of growing marijuana. Okay. The best way to get quality buds and big yields is to grow strong, healthy plants. No shit. Here's a quick rundown of the most important things you need to know about growing weeds. Cannabis is a warm, seasonal, annual. Okay, so let's start right there. So, typically speaking, typically speaking, we're gonna be dropping seeds. I'm gonna start cracking seeds late February. Okay. By the time the seeds pop and all that, I get them in the little starter cups and all that. Uh, we're into the first week of March. We already been hitting 70 degrees here in my region of California. So, as I was telling my daughter, I was predicting, I think we're in for an early spring. It's looking like that, right? So, I'm thinking we can get started a little early. So, I'm gonna start cracking seeds into February, first week of March in pots. Okay. Um, as a warm season annual, that essentially means it's gonna grow all year, and you're gonna harvest your flowers October, late October, going into late October. Technically speaking, you could do two harvests depending on how you crop the first. Depending on how you do the first crop, you can get another harvest. I think like in January sometime, if the weather is ripe for it, you can kind of do that. But it's an annual, so it takes all year to grow essentially. Cannabis is a warm season annual. It thrives in temperate climates such as Northern California's famed Emerald Triangle, and it grows and dies each year, having to get planted again the following year. Okay, there are also some methods, I have seen this, of plant regeneration, but that requires that you have to leave a lot of the plant material on the plant after you harvest, and it kind of uses some of that energy to regenerate itself. So I have seen that happen. It would take about 10 to 32 weeks to grow a weed plant, depending on the method you choose and how big you want plants to get. That 10 weeks is speaking of hydroponics, and we'll get into that. Before you start growing, you'll have to determine whether you want to grow indoors or outdoors. You can grow weed pretty much anywhere. It just depends on what space, equipment, resources you have available. Marijuana plants start out as either a seed or a clone. For those of y'all that don't know, a clone is just a clipping of a pre existing plant. Seeds will need to germinate to grow into a seedling. A clone is a cutting taken off of a weed plant that you can then grow into another plant and it will have the same genetic makeup. However, clones do kind of lose, I guess you could say, some vitality, right? It doesn't have the same virility largely as the original seed plant, but clones work. After the seedling stage, a weed plant enters the vegetative state, which is generally the longest stage of its life. Here, the plant will be a main stalk, branches, and fan leaves. No buds yet. So that's when you get a real big, like bushy plant just full of like really big, green, beautiful leaves, right? So, um, let's kind of break that down for just a little bit. Okay, so in an outdoor situation, if we're popping seeds around the end of February, and then we're getting like the seedlings above the dirt and we're putting them in the pots and then we're getting them outside in March, right? They will stay in the vegetative state until about late July. Okay. So basically, around the time when the days equal out to 12 hours, 12 hours of sunlight, 12 hours of moonlight. Okay. When we get to that equilibrium point in terms of sunlight and moonlight, that's when the flowering or the budding process will take effect in the female plants. Okay. Is also another thing to point out here with cannabis plants. Cannabis plants are one of the rare plants that you can distinguish. You can sex them. Basically, you can distinguish the sex of the plant literally by eyesight. Okay, male plants look a certain way. Female plants look a certain way. Okay, I've gone into more detail with regards to all of that and the human endocannabinoid system and all that in a previous live stream. I want to say it was called The Ancient History of Cannabis. I'll dig it up here in a little bit and I'll post that link to that one. But in short, cannabis, you can sex the plants just by eyesight, right? Males look a certain way, females look a certain way. We are talking about the female plant because the female plant produces the bud. Okay. So when we get to the point in the calendar, and typically a farmer's almanac or any reference on Google or whatever will tell us on the calendar when we do sort of reach, I forgot what the meteorological term is for it, but basically when the days go 12 hours sunlight, 12 hours moonlight, because from that point going forward, you're going to start getting more uh, moonlight hours as you will sunlight hours, right? And as you get more and more and more moonlight hours, that's when the female cannabis plants bud more and more and more. Okay. In a hydroponics situation, okay, this is where you're using artificial lighting to manipulate the plants to do certain things. Okay, to keep the plants in a vegetative state, you need to keep the lights on a blue green spectrum, which is 20. Well, no, zone. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is around the 1800 to 2100 lumens color spectrum. So that's like the blue green color spectrum. And then you need to keep it at 18 hours of light at that spectrum of lumens, and then 6 hours of darkness, complete darkness. Okay, so you have to give it a certain amount of hours and a certain amount of light at a certain spectrum. Okay, if you're going to then flower, you have to put them in another enclosed environment, and you're going to use orange, well, that's like 20 zone again, correct me if I'm wrong, 23 to 2700 lumens, I believe. It's like the orange or red spectrum. It's like 23 to 2700 lumens. It's a warmer. So here's how do you think of it. The lower end spectrum that takes longer hours replicates your spring, your coming out of winter in spring light spectrum. Okay, it's not as intense as when you get into late spring and summer, which then by that time we get into that 12 hour sort of light period, right? So we're just talking about, we're trying to mirror this in an artificial environment utilizing, well, nowadays it's these really powerful diode LED lights. Okay. But it's going to be like the 23 to 2700 lumens light spectrum, and you're going to do that at 12 hours of light, 12 hours of darkness. And when you do that in like a grow tent, that induces flowering in the plant. Okay, so that's how you induce it in an artificial environment. And then in nature, it's literally by the calendar. So like I said, like around late June, somewhere around sometime, you'll start to see little calyxes start to pop up off the plant. Now it's starting to flower. Okay. The magic happens during the flowering stage when the weed plants start to grow buds. Plants enter this stage about 2 months before harvesting. At harvest, you'll cut down your plants, trim them, dry them, and cure them, and then your homegrown buds will finally be ready to smoke, especially while listening to a smoke show. Okay, so let's talk about this part right here. Okay. Cut down the plants. You're gonna trim them, so you're gonna trim all that excess leafage off. Now, the leaf that has the part of the leaves that have a lot of that little crystally, that sort of crystally oily sticky stuff, you do want to keep those. If there's a lot of that substance on those leaves, you want to keep those and dry them, because you can grind that up and you can work some magic with that, especially if you use the trim, as they call it, the stuff that you trim from the plant. You can use a lot of that, and then like the little smaller buds, you grind it all together, and then you can render that down in an oil, like a coconut oil base, and then you can start, you can make your edibles with that, right? So, you know um not all is lost when you harvest, right? Like the trim, you can still use that. The stalks and all that, yeah, you can, you know you can toss that stuff. The buds, drying and curing them. So what you want to do is you want to hang them upside down. Also, one other thing. Okay, this is just some old farmer's almanac stuff. Let me get a little sip of tea. I'm gonna say this, and then I'm gonna check the chat, because I'm pretty sure there's some questions or some comments. Oh man, that is some good tea. Okay. Um. So ideally, what you want to do, and this is just kind of like horticulture, agriculture, whatever, right? Because I grow more than just plants or whatever. I mean, weed plants. I have collard greens that I got growing, and then we do plant new peppers, tomatoes. Got a lot of stuff I want to grow for this year. We're gonna, my daughter and I, we're gonna garden max, as she would say. Um, so when it comes to the harvesting, right? There's just like this kind of old world thought, right? What you want to do is harvest. So, okay, and this goes for any plant, okay? Any plant or vegetable or something rather, right? Okay. So how it works is this. If the if it's something that's above ground, right? Not ground level, it's above ground. So I don't care if it's a fruit or whatever. If you're harvesting it, right, to consume, you want to harvest it when tidal gravity is at its highest, meaning around the full moon or something. And this is not astrology, you guys. This ain't no astrology shit. This is like farmer's almanac shit. This is old world. This is old world shit. Okay. So Full moon phase around that time, you have tidal gravity, meaning water is up, it's being pulled up. So that means in plants, the water is being pulled upward into the plant. And so that's when the plant has the most volume in terms of its fruit, buds, leafage, foliage. Like if it's like some lettuce or like collard greens grow on stalks, right? Grapes, all these types of things, right? Peaches, especially things that have a lot of water in them. Okay, you want to harvest them when the tidal gravity is at its highest. When we're talking about things that are ground level, so we're talking about melons, strawberries, right? Think about things that grow along the ground: squash, cucumbers, what else? Lettuce, cabbage, right? Think about things that grow literally on the ground. Okay, you want to harvest those things when we're in that middle period, right? Where water is kind of set, it's set level. Okay, that's when you want to harvest those things at the most opportune time during that period. So you kind of just eyeball it. You go, okay, yeah, now's the time, right? Boom. And if we're talking about root vegetables, okay, you're talking about root vegetables, carrots, potatoes, beets, um, onions, right? Things that grow underground. Okay, things that we're gonna pull from up under the ground. Okay, that's when I think new moon phase, right? Water flows downward. Okay, low tide. Think low tide. Water goes down, right? So that means water then goes down into the vegetables, right? And then that's the time you want to pull those. So this is just kind of old farmers almanac stuff, right? I'm just kind of uh, uh give just throwing your way, right? So when you consider like doing this kind of stuff, and you kind of go on the calendar and you say, okay, my harvest date maybe might be around this time, and then what you want to do is check what the moon phase will be around that time. You'll say, actually, you know what, it might be better to go and pull this plant at this time right here, because on this day it'll be full moon. So just some stuff for you to consider. What does a marijuana plant need to survive? Oh, wait a minute. I said I was gonna check the chat. Give me a second. Let me see. All right. Let's see here. For blue, is it 5K? It's 5K. 2700 for summertime or flowering light. 5K. Okay, I was off on that one. Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Peace, Ronan. Peace, Zoe. Okay, yeah, 2700. Right. For summertime light. Why was I thinking a low number? Okay. So that's what it is. For blue, it's 5K. Cold. Okay, got it. All right, there it is. All right. Okay. So let's go on back. All right. What does a marijuana plant need to survive and thrive? Having a deeper understanding of the plant itself will help you dial in the growing process to grow the best weed you can. Below are some of the major things a weed plant needs to grow and how a plant functions. Light. Okay, we were just talking about this. Light from the sun or a grow light powers photosynthesis and the plant growing process, and the fan leaves on the wheat plant act like solar panels, soaking up the light. Generally, the more light you have, the more buds your plant will grow. Okay, so just I would say this. If you're outdoor, you want to have the plant where it can get a good amount of sunlight for a good portion of the day. Okay. That is until it gets super hot, like it does where I live sometimes, and then you need to go and duck it in the shade sometimes, because cannabis plants do good in heat up until a certain point. Okay, um, in an enclosed environment, like when you're growing hydro and what have you, right? So in there, what you want a really good amount of lighting that produces minimal heat if possible. Number one. Number two, you want really reflective material. See, because it's in an enclosure, if you can use like some mylar, what they call mylar, um, like mylar sheets, right? Because a lot of the grow tents now they have like this reflective material in it, but it doesn't really bounce light effectively. Mylar bounces light everywhere. So whatever light you project in there, Mylar bounces it around everywhere. So the plant can soak all of it up because it's bouncing around everywhere. So this is one thing that I would suggest, even if you get an indoor grow or enclosure, line it, get some Mylar. It's not that much. I think it may be like about 15, $20 a roll or something like that. But you you literally maximize on the wattage of the light that you have by literally just lining your stuff with this stuff. Give me a second. Okay. Generally, the more light you have, the more buds your plant will grow. Again, that's why I was saying if you're growing in a tent, line it with some mylar so that you can maximize on the light that you are pumping into that grow environment. But too much light can be a bad thing. Now, like I said, when growing indoors, lights that are too close to plants can burn them and your nugs. That's why I was talking about heat. That's why I was like, get a light that pumps out sufficient lumens and then use Mylar to maximize onset lumens. Don't just pump a bunch of light in there and then just overheat the tent. And the plants with too much heat on them will dry out more quickly, needing more water and care. Now, there used to be this old school thought that also if you had a growing environment that was too hot, for example, right? The plants would what they used to call herm out. Okay, so this was a thing where um a plant would actually it would become a what they call a ruderalis, or it would become a hermaphrodite. I'm not really sure if these modern day strains, because they're so feminized nowadays, if they have that ability to do that. But Zone, correct me if I'm wrong, but like the strains back, like if you go back maybe 20 years, depending on the growth situation, then man, the plants could do whatever they needed to do to ensure their own survival, which meant that they would self pollinate. All right. Now, the chocolate Thai strain from Thailand, that is a natural ruderalis strain. Okay, so it self pollinates. Hemp, a lot of no, no. Let me take that back. I think there are some hemp strains that are ruderalis, but hemp is they're the same as cannabis, right? Male, female, right? But there are some strains that are ruderalis. Uh, chocolate Thai being one of the most famous ones. Weed plants typically need at least 6 hours of light a day when growing outdoors, called full sun. When growing indoors, usually receive between 12 and 18 hours of light a day, depending on what phase of growth they are in. Now, the reason why it's saying that outdoors it needs six is because you know you get there's it, what it's suggesting here is that it needs 6 hours of full sunlight. That means just literally in full sunlight, right? Outside of that, ambient sunlight is then also sufficient for the remaining 12 hours, right? So that would give the 18 hours of light a day. But in an outdoor environment, it needs six of full sun. Okay. In an indoor environment, 18 straight hours of LED light is sufficient for vegetative growth. Weed is a photoperiod plant, meaning the daily amount of light it receives will determine when it flowers, when it starts to produce buds. Outdoors, this happens when the daily amount of light reduces as summer turns to fall. And indoors, growers can control this by changing artificial light from 18 to, well, like I said, 12 hours. All right. Water. All plants need water to grow, taking hydrogen from water during photosynthesis. Water also acts as a carrier for nutrients, bringing them from the soil to the plant via the roots and throughout the entire plant. Okay, I want to go on a little exploratory thing here, and I think I might even bring up another tab because I want to talk about the different ways, hydroponically speaking, right? Because we all are familiar with like how plants grow normally just in dirt, right? However, in a hydroponic environment, this can manifest in a number of ways. Okay, so let's talk about just a couple of ways real quick. Okay, so one would be like with a lot of growers used to do back in the day, right? They used to have like these grow buckets, right? They used to be filled with solution, and there was a lot of attention you had to pay to, the NPK solution and the ratio. That's nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, right? Those are the three primary nutrients that a plant needs to grow. And then there's going to be the secondary and tertiary and micronutrients that are also going to be present in whatever grow environment. But it can be something simple. Let's just say power goes out, pump goes out, or something like that, right? And then the plants don't get the proper nutrients for whatever given amount of time. Then trying to rebalance these plants would be a headache, right? So there's a lot of room for failure with like the old school, like a bucket with, just full of solution and all this kind of stuff, right? So what ended up becoming more popular from that method was essentially using cocoa coir, which is essentially it's like coconut husk, right? It's coconut husk and some other material. And when you add a water or a nutrient solution to it, it basically soaks the water up just like how dirt would. And a plant will root into this cocoa coir just like it would in dirt, right? So your cocoa coir is essentially like it's a synthetic sort of soil medium, and you can grow a plant in it just like it's dirt. The difference is though is that when you quote unquote water it, you're feeding it a nutrient solution when you water it. So you water it just like a regular plant, and but you're going to water it with a nutrient solution. So it's going to be like a NPK type of solution, and like again, secondary, tertiary, and micronutrients may be added also. And so when it comes to hydroponics nowadays, that's the more preferred method. The last time I grew indoors and I grew hydroponic, I grew that way, and my plants were beautiful. They were gorgeous. So if I ever get back to doing some indoor stuff, I'm gonna definitely do the cocoa coir route. Okay. Now, one other way I wanted to mention, and this is, yeah, let me do this. I'm going to bring this up. Give me a second. We're going to talk about this. This is a whole other method. And I'm trying to, there we go. All right. Let me just check my phone so I can make sure I can see that. Let's see. Okay. It is there. All right. So, cracky method. All right. So, check this out, man. I learned about this. I learned about this maybe like 15 years ago, right? The cracky method of hydroponics, right? So I'm going to just read this from the wiki. And before I do, let me drop this before I forget. I hope you're also learning some interesting stuffs this evening. Okay. The cracking method is a passive hydroponic technique for growing plants suspended above a reservoir of nutrient rich water. I have a bucket to do this. I just never got around to doing it. So I think I want to try it this year. That's why I'm bringing it up. Because I actually have I ordered a bucket to do this like about 3 years ago and never did anything with it. Okay, because it is a non-circulating technique, no additional inputs of water or nutrients are needed after the original application, and no electricity pumps or water and oxygen circulation systems are required. Okay, I'm going to read this again. Like I said, this is a whole different way of hydroponics, dude, and it's kind of like obscure. All right, I'm gonna say that again. Because it's a non circulating technique, no additional inputs of water or nutrients are needed after the original application, and no electricity, pumps, or water and oxygen circulation systems are required. The cracking method has applications for both commercial food production and as small scale and low maintenance technique for home growers. It has been described as the simplest hydroponic system. Okay, plants are placed in net cups filled with inert growth medium such as rock wool, expanded clay aggregate, uh, sphagnum moss, or cocoa coir, like I was telling you guys. Okay, so basically, here's what you do: you're gonna put like some, we'll just say like some rock wool, right, or whatever, expanded clay tablets, right? We're gonna put these in here, and then you're gonna stick a little seedling right in here where the stem is going to stretch down right around here. So that means that it is going to start to build a root system because this part of the net hangs down into the solution. So that means the stem hangs down in here. And so it is going to activate roots. Okay. Keep that in mind. The net cups are suspended above a reservoir of water containing essential nutrients in solution, like the NPK solution stuff. Only the root tips are allowed to touch the surface of the reservoir. Again, it's only going to be like right around in this area right here. As the plant grows and depletes the water level. Okay, so as the plant grows up this way, the roots that are over here start growing down this way and they start drinking up all of the water that's in this area as they come down. Okay. So as the plant grows and depletes the water level, a gap of moist air will form and expand between the water surface and the base plant. So that means that as these roots drink this water up, okay, the water will expand down, the root structure will expand down, and these will create water roots, right? These roots right here will become air roots. So there becomes two root systems, an air root system and a water root system. And so this is what it's saying right here: as the plant grows in the water and depletes the water level, a gap of moist air will form and expand between the water surface and the base of the plant. The roots in this gap become laterally branching oxygen roots, air roots, and absorb oxygen from the air inside the container. So it's again, it's like a kind of like you have veins and capillaries, right? So the oxygen roots are the capillaries. By the time the water level is fully depleted, the plant should be ready to harvest. So this thing is kind of like it's self-contained. Like I said, I'm gonna try this year. I'm gonna really commit to trying this. I have a bucket. I have a bucket to do this. But essentially, once all of the solution is gone, is the plant's ready for harvest. Thus, in one growing cycle, no additional replenishment for water or nutrients is needed beyond the initial application. So literally, you mix the solution up, you stick it in the bucket, you stick the plant, this little thing right here, whatever is growing medium, you stick this in there, and then you just let the shit grow until it's done. That's it. The method is named after Bernard Cracky, a researcher at the University of Hawaii who first proposed the method in the journal Acta Horticulturae in 2009. In the article, Cracky discusses using floating pellets for commercial food production. which I have seen already in application. Multiple plants are placed in net pots on boards that float atop a shared reservoir with support beams slightly underneath the water level. As the water is depleted, the boards eventually come to rest on the support beams, providing an air gap to allow for oxygen intake. The cracking method has also found popularity among home growers and is often carried out on smaller scales in containers such as buckets and mason jars. The technique is designed for leafy vegetables that do not consume large amounts of water, so the water supply does not need to be continually replenished. And there you have it, the cracky method. All right, so that was my quick little departure there on the cracky method. Let me just check some comments real quick if we have any. Cracky method, the crackhead method, I guess. Uh, that's the easy peasy method right there. I'm gonna give it a go this year. All right. Water also supports cells in the plants by creating pressure on cell walls. This makes plants flexible and allows them to bend in the wind or move to a sunnier spot. Now, I will say this, in an indoor environment, what you do want to do is induce this by having fans, right? Small little fans, maybe the ones that oscillate, having fans in your grow tent, because what that does is it sort of simulates that force so that the plants have a force to move up against to strengthen the cell walls, right? So you have to induce that by putting fans in your grow tent. Plants also transpire similar to how humans sweat. To help cool down, water evaporates from leaves, appearing as droplets on the tips. This might be a no brainer, but it's important to note that you only need to water the soil or medium of a weed plant, not the leaves or the plant itself. Thought that would be self explanatory. Okay. We recommend to water a lot, less frequently, rather than a little bit more often. Yeah, yeah, makes sense. I don't know. I usually just know when to go out there and water, but yeah, yeah. Ideally speaking, water a lot. Well, I think that's probably what I do. I water a lot, and then I kind of I'm like, all right, I need to go out there and water 'em. This allows the roots to dry out and pull in more oxygen from the soil. Yes, because what you don't want is something called root lock. Okay, we want to prevent root lock. What root lock is when you overwater. Okay, you overwater, and so water just basically sits down at the bottom of the pot, right? So you kind of have this little muddy stew, like this compacted sort of mud stew, right? And basically, what can happen is that the roots will rot, okay, because there's no oxygen that ultimately gets down there because it's just waterlogged, it's just soaked. So the roots will start to just rot, okay, and that's one way to kill your plant, root rot. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. Water a lot, let it go. Sometimes you want to just touch it. I think the rule of thumb: take your take your index finger, right? So your index finger has like three sections. So it has like the top part where your fingernail is, and then there's like a line right there, and then there's the middle part, and then there's like the part that connects to like the rest of your hand, right? If you take the top part, just the part with your thumbnail, or I'm sorry, your fingernail, with that line right there, okay, you want to stick that far down to that line. If it's dry to that line, it's time to water. That's another little trick, a little trickadoo there. All right, soil or soilless. Okay, we kind of covered this, but let's go over it real quick. Soil or another medium gives a plant stability so they can stay upright, and also contains most of the nutrients the plant the nutrients a wheat plant needs to grow and produce buds. Out in the wild, nutrients find their way into soil through rain, dead animals, and other decayed organic matter and living organisms, like worm poop. They call them worm casings, like worm poop, for example. And rocks and minerals in the soil itself. When growing weed, plants are often supplemented with nutrients, especially when growing indoors to maximize growth. These can be added to soil as powdered amendments or as liquids when watering. Okay, yeah, that's ideally what you're doing is you're taking your nutrient solutions, pre-mixing it. Well, first thing you're doing is testing your pH water. When you're doing hydroponics, you first have to get the pH for the water. You have to get the pH right first before you add the nutrients into the water, right? So typically there's going to be some sort of kit that you'll have, right? So you can get the pH where it needs to be. I think it may go into that. I'm not sure, but I'm just letting you know. You got to set the pH for the water first, right? Once you get the water for the pH or the pH for the water set right, then you can add your nutrient ratios, how you need it, mix it up, feed your plants. All right. Let's see here. Maximum organic cannabis growers often favor living soil. Now, this is what I do right here. I don't do a whole lot of additives and stuff. If anything, right? I don't. I just really get a good, nice soil mix together, and I get the plant in the soil, and I give it water, and I give it sunlight, and I give it a lot of love. Okay, that's how I grow my plants. I don't put stuff in it. Hydro is a completely different story, right? But just in soil, as it said, organic growers, that's how we do it. Okay, living soil full of microbes and fungi, which many believe help plants uptake nutrients and lead to more diverse flavor and chemical profile in buds. This this is so true. Now, in the strain review I'm going to do here in a little bit, it's called Wedding Crashers. So it is a cross between wedding cake, which I grew last year, and I have another seed. I'm going to grow that one again this year. It's purple. What is it? Purple crush, purple crush, purple something or something purple, and wedding cake. Okay, but I grew wedding cake last year, right? My sister and her friends, I gave them some, and they twisted up and rolled one, and they said it was like the highest they've ever been. And they were just like, "How did you grow this?" And I was like, "Literally, I just gave it water." Like that's it. I literally just gave it water, right? You see, so that's kind of like the power of just organic cannabis, right? I think it has a way more powerful medicinal effect than if you do it some of the other ways. Indoor growers often buy soil and put plants in pots. Outdoor growers can do this as well or use pre existing soil, which may need nutrient amendments. Other mediums include rock wool, cocoa coir, that's what I was telling you about, water, known as hydroponics, and more. Okay, yeah, nutrients. Let's get into nutrients right here. I was telling you guys nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. A weed plant needs many nutrients to grow and bloom. These main nutrients it needs are nitrogen, helps the plant grow during the vegetative phase, putting on mass stems, branches, and leaves. It is part of chlorophyll, so it helps the plant capture sunlight for photosynthesis and helps make leaves green. Phosphorus is essential for storing and using energy as well as root growth and development of buds. It helps the plant uptake nutrients to build its structure. Potassium. Potassium helps with many of a wheat plant's metabolic activities to keep it healthy and growing and to fight off disease. Calcium, a minor nutrient. So, like I was saying, secondary. A minor nutrient, calcium helps the plant keep its cell walls together and helps it with absorption of other nutrients. Magnesium. Magnesium is in chlorophyll and helps plants create glucose from photosynthesis. So that's glucose is the sugar, the energy. Without it, the plant can't convert sunlight into energy. Well, I was just telling you. This is, if you guys remember, I'm, I'm Gen X, so this is shit. We learned it in school. CO2, tertiary. Plants take in CO2 through microscopic holes in its leaves called stomata. During photosynthesis, plants convert CO2 into glucose, and the plant uses that to grow and bloom. Okay. Now, let's see. What are some of the other ones I can think of? Now, I'm gonna give you guys a whole my whole little spiel here on how I what I used. Matter of fact, here, let me do this. Screw it. We're gonna just nerd out on this shit tonight. We got time. It's a smoke show, y'all. So check this out. Let me show you guys something. Max. See, I'm gonna give you guys a little take into my little how I do things. Okay. I want to show you guys something. Okay, so when I grow hydro, this is what I do, right? I use Maxi. Okay. Maxi is a seaweed based plant food. Now, why am I using seaweed based plant food? Why? Because there is not another source on this planet that has as much minerals in it as seawater. Okay. You could technically take like 1 gallon jugs, go out to the beach, dump it in the water, right? Then go back and just water your plants with them and watch what they do. Okay. Because there's so many, I think, an upwards of like 111. Like there's secondary, tertiary, there's main, secondary, tertiary micronutrients in seawater. Okay. So, what is the next best thing to do? Use something from the sea as plant food, right? So what you could do is there's three different formulas of Maxi, right? And then what you do is you just add different ratios of this into a hydroponic solution. And so the last time I grew hydroponic, I used Maxi. Okay. And I swear to you, man, my plants are beautiful. I wonder if there's some pictures. Do they have any? What is this? Okay. No, that I didn't mean to do that. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, Maxi, right? I used Maxi last time I did hydroponics, right? So you need all three, and then what you need to do is for the different parts of the grow phase. I did not say hoe phase. I said grow phase. Get your minds right. You're going to use different ratios of this. So you use like one part of this, two parts of this, one part this, or I forgot what it was. Right. So but here it is right here. Right? So Maxi all purpose may be combined with varying ratios of Maxi Bloom to create any number of formulas. A 50-50 ratio of Maxi Bloom would create an approximate 10-20-20 formula. This is favorite with prize winning rose growers and is our favorite for our mid season use in our home garden. Blah, blah, blah. So basically, what you do is you create the ratio based on the formula that you need. Okay. And you just use these three different variants. But I'm giving you guys just my own little secret recipe here for hydro. Okay. Maxi. All you gotta do is get one of these, one of these, one of those. Ratio your stuff out. Man, this stuff is just the best. Okay. The absolute best. All right. Enough of that. That was not a paid advertisement. That was just me giving you my take. Okay, told you guys about air and wind flow, making sure that you have sufficient airflow in your growing environment. Outdoors, you don't have to worry about that. It's just outdoor. Indoor, on the other hand, like I said, you do want to have fans blowing so that it does create some sort of resistance that can strengthen the cellular walls, as it's stating right here. Wind and airflow will also help strengthen the plant stalks and branches, right? That is very important. Always want to make sure your temperatures are around 70 to 85 degrees. Like I said, cannabis plants they can deal with heat, but only for a certain amount of time, right? So you always want to kind of make sure that we're in a really good temperature zone, about 70 to 85 degrees. Okay. If we're hotter, like I said, it'll deal with it. But if it's outdoor and it's really hot, try to move it into some shade. Okay. It's okay. It'll deal with the ambient sunlight. But what you want to do is make sure we've taken it down to a temperature that doesn't have it stressing. Okay. Um, let's see here. That's indoor. Let's see here. Hmm, I don't really think there's too much else when it comes to like choosing a marijuana strain or whatever. At this point, they kind of are all the same. I'm gonna be real with you. Some of them have longer flowering periods than others because of like the bud structures and stuff. So some buds just take longer to grow outward. So some might be like 8 to 10 weeks, some might be 10 to 12 weeks flowering period, but they're really pretty much all the same nowadays. So let's see here. We're gonna go back over here. Yeah, root rot, right? Exactly. So let's see here. What we will now do is we are going to get into our strain review. So as I was saying, wedding crashers. Okay. Wedding crashers. You heard it right. Let's bring it up. Oh wait, here it is right here. All right. Wedding crashers. All right. So I will tell you what I think about this strain. Um, got it today, and I said, you know what? I'll do a strain review on this today, right? So, um, it has a very look. If you didn't call it Wedding Crashers, I would have called this strain Skittles. And the reason why I would have called it Skittles is because it literally tastes like berries. I'm not even playing. This stuff tastes like, the pack of Skittles that are either the blue bag or the purple bag of Skittles, where it's like kind of like the blueberry, raspberry, that kind of dark berry Skittles. That is this strain right here. It tastes so good, especially if you're smoking it straight out of glass, right? Nothing, obstructing, the taste or anything like that. Heavy, heavy, heavy berry terpenes, right? And we're gonna go into the terpene chart in a minute, but I'm just letting you know I toasted some of this before we went live. Berries all day, every day. Wedding Crasher, also known as Wedding Crashers, is a hybrid marijuana strain made from the cross of wedding cake and purple punch. Produced by Symbiotic Genetics, Wedding Crashers mixes the smooth vanilla flavors of wedding cake with a sweet grape notes of purple punch. Symbiotic has developed a mellow, earthy strain with sharp, grassy highlights and a sweet berry finish. What was I telling you guys, man? This stuff literally does taste like grapes. Okay, well, grape comes from the purple punch strain. Okay, got it. All right, but man, the berry is so heavy on this, right? It is super heavy on this, and so in terms of terpenes, right? In terms of the terpene chart, you're gonna get berries. Let me see. Where do you get the berries at? I forgot where it was at. Because limonene, you get the citrus. The berries, hmm, the ossamine right here. It would be kind of like in this realm right here. Man, you get a lot of fruit. That's the only thing I can kind of explain. You get a lot of fruit. So it's going to be like these three terpenes right here, right? You get a lot of fruit. And it's funny, right? They all have like anti-inflammation, antifungal, antioxidant, antifungal, antibacterial, right? They all kind of have this similar terpene profile, but you can pick this up in the taste, right? That's the reason why it even gives you, right? It gives you like the taste or like the what it's found in, right? So that you can kind of reference it. It has a very heavy berry taste to it. That's what I tasted more than anything. A little bit of maybe some mint or some wood, but yeah, it was all berries. Really good strain. I would say now, I'll tell you like this. I'm not the biggest indica guy. It is kind of heavy on the indica. I'm not even gonna lie, because I can really feel it in my body. It kind of makes you a little lethargic, um, but it's a damn good smoke. Luna Cool. I think that yeah, I think that that might be the one zone. It's the terpene that's really attached to berries, like fruit type, dark colored fruits, like blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, cherries, all that kind of stuff. It really has a heavy. That's why I thought Skittles. I tasted it and I was like, dude, this is a Skittles all day. But I would say, um, in terms of a rating on it, I give it I give it like a cool 7.5. Like I said, it's a little indica heavy. That's a little too much for me. Like I'll probably snap another bowl and then take my ass to sleep after we finish this up here. Cuz it is a little indica heavy. But man, when I smelled it in the jar when I got it earlier today, I was like, this smells good. And then I snapped some and I was just like, this tastes good too. But it is indica heavy. I think it's like 60% indica, 40% sativa. It's more on the indica side. I can feel it. I'm more of like 50-50 or more on the sativa side. I usually can't do this type, but I only bought a little bit, so it's cool. But 7.5 on the Wedding Crashers. Not bad. You know what it's good for? It's good if you're gonna watch a movie with your old lady. Definitely. It's that kind of herb. Yeah, you guys blow some of this and then watch like a movie that you guys are gonna completely just get all lost in. This is a good herb for that. It's a good herb for that. You really do feel it physically. So, um, been a minute since I've had some indica heavy stuff. Um, Not exactly used to this feeling, but it's some good stuff. Not gonna lie, definitely is doing what it's advertised. Doing as advertised. Okay, sativa's supposed to make you sleep. No, dude, what are you talking about, dude? Sativa's not supposed to make you sleepy. Indicas do. Sativas make you paranoid. Oddly enough, that's what I like to smoke. Sativas. Right? Those are my favorite strains, dude. Like what? Uh like Blue Dream. That's a sativa heavy strain. Durban Poison, that's literally my favorite strain. That's like all sativa. I got some whatchamacallit. I got oh, real quick. So for the growing season, we're growing Granddaddy Perp. I have a Granddaddy Purple seed. We're growing Granddaddy Perp. We are growing Tequila Sunrise. That's the sativa heavy strain zone that I'm going to be growing this year. Tequila Sunrise. I have a Tequila Sunrise seed. I have a Granddaddy Purple seed, and I will be growing Wedding Cake again. Jasper, welcome. You said I always learn that sativa make you sleepy. Man, what the heck? Nah, dude, indicas make you sleepy, bro. Indicas like that. That's the Stony Jackson right there, dude. Yeah, okay. Indicas, you do get a bigger pot harvest. Absolutely. Indicas grow bigger buds. Yes. That's the thing about them. Dude, that's why hybridization became so popular. It was like, okay, well, how do we get the sativa effect, but we got to get more bud because sativas don't grow big buds, right? They grow tall, skinny ones, right? But you don't have to smoke a whole lot to get blitzed. You know what I'm saying? But that's when they started like crossing all of the sativas with the indicas, and now you can't hardly find an original. Or I'm sorry, I'm saying you can't hardly find like an all indica strain or an all sativa strain nowadays. It is really hard. Now I still have these Panama red seeds that I've had for I don't know how many damn years. Like, dude, these seeds are literally like about 25 to 30 years old. And I swear to God, I'm trying to get them to crack this year. Panama Reds are sativa, largely sativa strains, super old school. I'm trying to get them to crack. I'm gonna be successful this year. I shit you not. I'm gonna do it, man. We're gonna get this done. They sell pure seed online. You know what, man? Nowadays, dude, I don't know. You don't know until the seed pops, right? You don't know until the seed pops, and you know you see the plant and all that stuff. You just really don't know, you know. But okay, with that being said, I want to go ahead and get this shut down. So we talked about how to grow your herbs. And what I'll be doing is I'll do a little grow log on the Brain Trust. I'm gonna do a little grow log, right? So we're gonna be following up on the Tequila Sunrise, Granddaddy Perp, and Wedding Cake. Those are the three strains we're growing this year. Okay. So myself and my baby Case, we will be getting gardening supplies here probably in the next what 2 to 3 weeks, right? She's got some new stuff she wants to grow as well. So um, I de-weeded everything last week, and we're getting the garden all together. Okay, so just thought it would be apropos to talk about how to grow cannabis for this new coming up growing season. So, with that being said, you guys like the video, share this with your other cannabis aficionados, and we will catch you guys on the next one. Yeah, that's right, Zone. Go big or go the F home. All right, y'all. Peace.